And welcome back, everyone. My name is Gio. In this video, Billy B and I will be giving you our take on the AFC North division. Here are the future totals for wins for every team and the odds to win the division, conference, and Super Bowl. We'll start off with the Baltimore Ravens. Vegas has them to win 8 games. Baltimore came very close to making the playoffs last year until losing to the Bengals, who scored a long touchdown really late in the game. The Ravens will need to improve on their 5.3 yards per passing attempt, which was the worst in the NFL last year. Wide receivers Michael Crabtree, Willie Snead, and John Brown have been brought in. This was the last draft for general manager Ozzie Newsome, considered to be one of the very best general managers in the last 20 years. Although Ozzie's been great, I think he's lost some of his magic in recent years. I'm not sure if I agree with the moves he made, drafting a 25-year-old tight end, Hayden Hurst, and then moving back into the first round to draft quarterback Lamar Jackson, who has the talent, I'm sure, but I'm not sure if it'll translate to the NFL. My best case scenario for Baltimore this year is about 4-2 in their own division and maybe 5-5 with the rest of the 10 games. I project them to go 8-8 this year, which is right around the number, so I won't be betting on Baltimore this year. Next up are the Cincinnati Bengals. Vegas has them at 6.5 wins for this year. Entering Week 16 last year, the Bengals were out of any hope of making the playoffs, and then they inexplicably knocked off Detroit and Baltimore, eliminating those two teams for the postseason. All that really did was two things. One, it ensured that the Bengals would get a lesser draft pick, and two, it got head coach Marvin Lewis a 2-year extension instead of the axe. I can't understand it. At least the Bengals were a little bit more traditional in this year's draft. Last year, if you remember, they drafted the super fast wide receiver John Ross, who just couldn't stay healthy, and running back Joe Mixon, who had off-field concerns. If they can get those guys to contribute, then Cincy's offense can improve this year. They were dead last in 2017 in total offense. They still have wide receiver A.J. Green. They also have Pro Bowl caliber tight end Tyler Eifert. My best case scenario for Cincinnati this year is to go 4-2 in their own division and maybe 6-4 with the other 10 games. I think they'll end up with a record of 8-8, which is a little bit above the 6.5 that Vegas has. So I'm going to take them over the total, but I don't think they'll win the division, conference, or Super Bowl. Next up are the Cleveland Browns, who Vegas has pegged at winning 5.5 games this year. After going 0-16, the Cleveland Browns owed their fan base two things going into the offseason. One, stop the quarterback carousel, and two, draft players that can help you win games now. So what do they go and do? They sent rookie quarterback Deshaun Kaiser packing and brought in quarterback Tyrod Taylor from Buffalo. Kaiser was a second-round pick who they let go for a 7th rounder after only 1 year. Yikes. The Browns had the 1st and 4th overall picks, and nobody in the world would have said anything if they took the highly touted running back Saquon Barkley out of Penn State. Barkley would have been a great help to any quarterback under center. But nope, they drafted yet another quarterback, Baker Mayfield, a small guy with some off-field issues. He does have talent, but he wasn't even the best quarterback prospect in this year's draft class, in my opinion. Then at number 4, they passed on the best defender in the draft, Bradley Chubb, a monster defensive end that they could have paired with last year's number 1 overall pick, Myles Garrett. Those two would have terrorized opposing quarterbacks for the next 10 years, but nope. You know, the last time a team went 0-16 was the Detroit Lions a couple of years ago, and they followed that up with a 2-win season the following year, and you guessed it, one of those wins came against Cleveland. The best case scenario for the Browns would be to go 2-4 in their own division and maybe 2-8 with the rest of the 10 games, but I think they'll go 0-16. Well, maybe not. You know what? I'll give them a record of 2-14 this year. Anybody who thinks that the Browns are going to win more than 3 games this year is crazy. So I strongly recommend you take under the 5.5 wins and forget about winning the division, let alone the conference or the Super Bowl. And last up are the Pittsburgh Steelers. Vegas has them at 10.5 wins. It's hard to imagine that a team with this much firepower can't win more Super Bowls. They've got Roethlisberger at quarterback, Le'Veon Bell at running back. They have Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster as their wide receivers. They always seem to lose a game or two every year that they should win. For example, last year they lost at Chicago. The home game against New England in Week 15 is going to be really pivotal. Most of their toughest games are at home this year. They'll host Kansas City, Atlanta, Carolina, and New England. The best case scenario for the Pittsburgh Steelers is for them to go 6-0 in this very lackluster division and maybe 8-2 in the other games. I see them going at 12-4. This team should be a lock to win the division. I also have them as my AFC champions. Whether or not they win the Super Bowl is another story, but I'm definitely taking over the 10.5 win total, and I'm going to put money on them to win the division and the conference. Okay, and that's my take on the AFC North. For his thoughts on this division, here's Billy B.
First up, for the AFC North, is the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens, to me, are the ultimate team. They have average talent and will be an average team. The only thing to look for this season is if Flacco will get benched for rookie Lamar Jackson at some point. If this team isn't performing the way that the fans expect, they will be clamoring for a change. I have the Ravens pushing on their win total of 8, so I would not bet that. I also would not bet them for the AFC North, AFC Conference, or Super Bowl. Next up, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. How long can a team continue to be mediocre and the coach keep his job? Will this be the year Marvin Lewis finally gets canned? I say yes. I think the Bengals are in for a long season. I have the Bengals going under the win total of 6.5, and I would bet this. I would not bet them for the AFC North, AFC Conference, or Super Bowl. Next is the Cleveland Browns. The Browns have had an interesting offseason, bringing in Jarvis Landry and drafting Baker Mayfield. Shockingly, the Browns are moving in the right direction. They have good players at the skill position with Landry, Josh Gordon, and Carlos Hyde. The defense will be hard to score on as they play hard. I like where this team is headed. However, for this season, I have them going under the win total of 5.5. I would not bet this, and I would also not bet them for the AFC North, AFC Conference, or Super Bowl. Last, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are one of the most consistent teams in the NFL. They continue to pile up wins and make the playoffs, but they just can't seem to get over the hump and make it to the Super Bowl. This is the weakest the AFC has been since Big Ben took over as quarterback and might be the last shot since he has been mulling over retirement. With weapons like Brown and Bell, the Killer Bees will score some points. I have them going under the win total of 10.5. I would not bet this. I would bet them to win the AFC North at minus 260 because I don't see any other teams as a threat. I would also bet them at 4.5 to 1 to win the AFC, and I would bet them at 10 to 1 to win the Super Bowl. Okay, and those are our thoughts on the AFC North Division. Make sure you check out all of our other videos, and please give us a thumbs up, give us your thoughts in the comments section, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We hope you enjoyed this video. For Gio, I'm Billy B. See you next time, and let's take the man's money.